do a quick review of what we did the other day just to bring everyone up to speed and get everyone on the same page. Because this is a 6-week series and this is number 2 of our series. Are you recording? So last week I introduced you to all the solutions. And there were 9 of those things. But largely we broke it down into 2 categories. One of those were the microorganisms, and the others were all those things that we got to taste. And those things we tasted are what we call like biostimulants. And what biostimulants do is they feed the ecosystem. So it's taking plants and concentrating those nutrients and then feeding our ecosystem. And the one we tasted last time, does anyone remember the different flavors we had?
You had lime.
We had noni lime, kalo, plumeria, Daryl, yeah, kalo we said, and those were all the foods we tasted. Then we also tasted, I don't know if you guys tasted it, but we had a cleanser.
Oh, the vinegar.
And that was a vinegar.
Yeah.
And then we also tasted the medicine. And this was that kind of spicy liquor drink that we had. Right? You guys remember it had like garlic and ginger, licorice, cinnamon, angelica. So we had the medicine too. So all of those things, the food, the cleanser, the medicine, all of these are what we call biostimulants. They're naturally available right here that we can take sugar and control this process to make some of the most potent plant stimulants as well as soil biology restoration foods to do this. So that's what we're gonna do today is we're gonna go over these 3. We're gonna go over how we make the food, how do we make the cleanser, and how do we make the medicine. And these are all super simple processes that when we do it, all these things feed the microbes. So, I think we'll start off today, again, by just refreshing our memories.
Handouts yet?
They ran out here.
So we'll just send some of this around, sample taste. This is what we're going to be working with today.
We got it. Oh, that's check. Okay, does this work? I have to talk really into it like this.
When it rains.
You look so cool.
He needs one.
Okay, when it rains, I'll use it. If you can't hear me, let me know. I'll switch over to the mic. But if everyone can hear me without it, I'd rather not use it.
We got 2 of them.
Oh, you know what? I gotta hit record on this thing.
Perfect.
You can keep that in.
Over at this side.
So handouts coming around. Also, the samples of the juice are coming around. And I wanted to let you guys know all the handouts I have for this class come from this book here. Some people have already picked up this book. It's $30, and they have all the handouts, and they're in nice color.
Is it waterproof?
No, it's not. The front cover's waterproof, but the rest is not, so be very careful with this book. But this has everything in here and how to apply it and how to use it. So I do have these available today here, so hit me up after or at an appropriate time. But what we're gonna make today, and what I started to pass around, is this KNF food.
Oh, wait, no, I got this.
You guys getting the handouts in the back? So if I want to revive the ecosystem, I can do, or I want to get something growing. I can kind of do two things. One is I can get a lot of people there and bring a bunch of people there to make it happen. The other is I can get a bunch of food together, and then people will show up to kind of help it happen. Right, so I can either like hire people directly and pay you directly, or I can just get a bunch of food or resources you need and make those available, and people will come and start to work. It's kind of a big premise there, but those are the two basic ideas. I can bring people there, or I can just feed them. So what we're going to focus on today is just restoring our soil by putting enough food that the microbes want to eat into our system. Then the indigenous biology, when we put enough food, will revive itself. And then when you're well fed, you can start to then go to work. So what we're going to focus on today is a recipe to get the best healthy food into our soil to then revive our microbes and everything via food. So when we tasted that thing going around, it's really sweet, right? The same sweetness is what the plant roots put out. They make exudates, which just put sugary, nutrient-rich stuff into the soil, and that's what feeds the microbiome. So this same stuff that you taste that's sweet, this is exactly mimicking nature and what would naturally happen in our soils. To do this process, it's super simple. You take the material you want that has the nutrients in it. You mix it with some sugar. And out comes your juice.
What was this mixed with?
So in this case, what I have right here in front of you is bananas. These bananas don't look that appealing. What happened to them? They got sunburned. I left them out on the deck and they got sunburned. I was like, oh, bummer. That's fine. They're still delicious on the inside. So bananas went into this bucket. Sugar went into this bucket. I waited a little bit. I got some juice out.
The whole banana or just the inside?
So if you understand this general process, then we can get into exactly how to prepare the things.
It doesn't matter with the fruits that it be picked 3, 4, 5 in the morning.
We can get into all those intricacies and details because those are nice things to like think about while you're doing it. In general though, take in whatever this is, and a lot of times this material here, anyone prepared a pineapple recently?
Yes.
Did you have all that skin on the outside? Did you look at that and think, oh, that's pretty good stuff that I'm throwing away? This is a recipe that you can take that stuff, because we don't necessarily want to eat it. It's a little tough and the outside skin's a little tough. This is a recipe you can take that outside skin of the pineapple that you have left over, follow this recipe. You've now taken that rich nutrients, which was that outer skin, which is high in nutrients, and you've gotten a way to extract it into a juice form that then I can spray back on my pineapples. And now I'm going to get all that nutrients going directly back in through this process. Oftentimes when I'm dealing with bananas, in this case here, I got so many bananas right now, I'm just going to ferment these. But oftentimes I'm peeling them, freezing them, or dehydrating them, end up with a mountain of peels. Mix it with sugar like this, get a liquid out of it in a few days. Now this is all that nutrition that I otherwise would have composted and maybe seen some results from composting. But this way, when you taste this, all the nutrients are much more concentrated in here. So instead of just letting it kind of rot in the bushes and doing its thing, I can actually get out the most vital juice. Then this, now I can spray back on my banana, and I'm gonna get a lot more result of this than I would just spraying, or than just dropping the peels around the base of my banana. I take the same amount of peels and put them on the soil versus I ferment it and then I spray my banana. I'm gonna get much more results from this.
You talked the other day about putting a bunch of it in, which is water and letting it rot, and then spraying that. With sing skill. That's really simple, basic kind of way. Not using sugar, skipping the sugar step. Can you do something like that? If you don't have the sugar, can you just put a bunch of peels and pineapple stuff all in one bucket and let it ferment? And get anything usable out of the loose peel that way?
Absolutely. So the recipe you're talking about is something I'll get into, and we'll cover that at the appropriate time. But this, what I'm showing you here, is how to get the stuff that you can drink. And this recipe, more than for your soil, if you start drinking this as a human being, you remember last time I came up here with all those noni pills and what else did I have? All those things, like you can walk into Island Naturals and see a whole wall of that stuff, right? But also you can get those same things here, and this is what these are for. It's not just your plants, but this is also now your supplements, your human supplements. If you know your doctor tells you, oh, you're deficient in this or something, you know, like what's somebody deficient in?
Potassium.
Iron.
Magnesium.
Okay, we'll just stick with those first three. We're deficient in potassium, magnesium, and iron. So I go onto the internet and I say plants rich in iron, potassium, and magnesium. Maybe it'll show me one plant that has all three in a high level. Maybe it'll show me other plants that concentrate that. If I have it on hand, I can just harvest it. So say, for instance, let's just pick calcium as something we're deficient in. Many people are deficient in calcium. This plant here, Comfrey, happens to be very rich in calcium. So what I can do is I can take this plant and I can mix it with the sugar in a bucket, get out the juice, and now I have a calcium supplement. If I was lacking in iron, I can do the same thing. Go find a plant that I know that concentrates that. Do the same process. Now I got my own thing here. And if I knew where this was grown, and I knew the farm area that it was coming from, and I knew the source of my sugar, and I was picking like the best high quality sugar to do this with, do you think I'd have more confidence in my medicine things that I'm making than buying like random things on the shelf that who knows where they came from and then packaging those nice pills? Because I'm trying to buy it to get healthy, right? So if I know I got a healthy source the whole way through and I'm able to make my own supplements at home, it's really what today's course is about, even though it's called natural farming. I'm teaching you how to make the world's best medicine for any situation. Take a plant, you get its vital juice, all of its nutrients out, and then you drink that and it puts it into whatever can absorb water. It absorbs it. Plant, soil, microbe, human.
Do you dilute it or?
If you're using it on plants, you dilute it. If you're using it on humans, you can take straight pulls, but man, you'll get diabetes fast. So you can dilute this to taste, so you avoid the diabetes.
And could you mix Comfrey with the iron plant, with the banana peel? I mean, can you mix them up together and make just one drink, or do you have to do them separate?
That's a great question. I can mix them just like I can make a mixed drink.
Yeah.
I can pour in some Comfrey, and I can pour in some Suriname cherry, and I'm like, ooh, just a hint of lime. And I can make the most perfect cocktail that I want to drink. Some ice cubes in there. I can drink this morning, noon, and night. You know, and I can make my own blends from this. Would I want to put the comfrey and the banana in this bucket while I'm making it? No. But after I've made them, I got here noni and a plumeria. I can take these two finished products and blend them. I can drink that, and it's going to be tasty. It's going to taste all floral and all noni.
Floral and noni. Yeah.
Anyone want to try it?
Yeah, we'll do the floral.
Does any kind of sugar work, or does it need to be cane sugar?
So the question on sugar and all that, I end up getting into, let's turn this thing on here, and but does everyone understand the general concept of what I'm doing? I'm basically taking plant leaves, fruits, I can do roots, I can do trunks, stems, I can ferment anything. What I want to grab is the part that I know concentrates those nutrients. So a quick internet search, where is whatever concentrated the most in this plant, enter, take that, harvest that if you can get it locally, follow this process, you will then have the best medicine. This works, when you're thinking of your plants, a lot of people ask me, oh, I have this deficiency in my plant. What are you gonna do? Find a plant that has a concentration of that. Say I'm lacking iron. Find a plant that has tons of iron, ferment it, feed that to my plant. It's like an iron infusion coming directly into its skin. It absorbs it, now it has iron. It doesn't even matter if it's in my soil or not. It's better if it's in my soil, it's better if I have living soil, but I can spray iron directly into a plant. So same like you have a deficiency, your plant has a deficiency, find the plants that have a sufficiency, ferment, extract, spray, boom. Simple, easy. If you got that, then we can get into minutia. Does the sugar matter? Yes. Does the time I gather my plant material matter? Yes. Does my mood matter? All these are good questions to check into and to go into the minutia of like figuring this out. If I'm gonna make the highest medicine, I wanna probably be in the best mood, use the best sugar I can possibly find, gather at the perfect time, do all these minutia steps, ferment for the perfect amount of time with the moon, pour this off with special crystals and Bon Jovi playing. Really get in the mood. Right?
Yeah.
And the more you can get into the minutia, the better product you can deliver. But ultimately, there was a question up here of, can I just put fruit in a bucket and stuff in a bucket, add some water and rot it? Totally. The same process applies all the way through. You're still gonna get a nutrient. That one I would not eat. That one, even if you think of your plants, you're putting it on and it's like, you have a choice. You have this really high quality method that if we get it through and you're really caring about your plants, or you just got a big area you gotta take care of, so you're just gonna rot a bunch of stuff and just get her done. So this is the minutia that makes it all super fun to learn about. But what I want to convey to you today is this concept: nutrients out, solution, spray, fix almost any nutrient deficient problem. Because what is your best medicine according to Hippocrates?
Food is the business.
Food be your medicine and rock be your roll. Right, he was the first bowler rock star. He's like, I figured out health, bro. It's just eating right. Everyone else is dying. They're like, why am I dying? He's like, bro, you should just eat right. In today's world, it's a challenge to eat right. The easiest things to eat are definitely probably fruit, and that grows everywhere. And if we tuned into that, we'd all be in elevated higher states. But what instead we do is we go trade our labor for Federal Reserve notes and then buy food that comes thousands of miles, and then that stuff, the nutrients all went down. And then we try to eat it, and then we're like, bro, why aren't I super healthy? So what you can do is you can concentrate nutrients around you. What we have to do is we have to supplement today. That's why there's Centrum, Silver, what's the other multivitamins? One a day. Who? Multivitamins. The Flintstones for life. Chewable every day. Yeah, but those things, those Flintstones, this one a day, the Centrum, these things we're trying to put in, aren't necessarily going to go in our body. Sure, there's zinc in there, but is it the zinc that can be absorbed into my cells that I can then use? The one that's in here, if there's zinc in here, which there must be, because all plants have zinc in them, I believe, so it's in here. This one goes directly into my cells, and the zinc I get out of here is immediately into my body. The Centrum stuff may sit there, may float around. My body might be like, I don't know about that zinc. I don't know. Are you guys catching the picture?
Yeah.
Yes.
If I want to make cacao fermented plant juice or fermented fruit juice, would I just get a pod, smash it up with the seeds and all, and sugar? And that would be a fermented fruit juice if it has seeds in it?
Yes. So if I was a rock star and I could afford to just crack the cacao pods and put everything in, grind the whole darn thing up, I wouldn't grind it very fine, but I'd ferment all that. Usually, in my case, I would take the cacao, take the juice that comes off, ferment that. That's a nutrient that can go back to cacao or a good beverage that I try to sell or some sort of thing. Then I take the seeds and dry those and sell them, and all the pod material that's left over, I'd ferment all the pod material. And primarily from my cacao, what I'd be regaining back to my farm is all the pod material, and then any rotten, cracked pods that I can't sell, I'd also put that into this bucket here. So primarily what this would be my cacao pods. And I take a machete and just try to cut them a little smaller than just leaving them in their shape. I cut them in half or at least quarters or something. And we're gonna go through this process so you'll see how it's done. And we're gonna do it. But that's a great way. Any farm waste you have, recycle, ferment it, put it through this stuff, peels,
So you
pods.
said you wouldn't mix the comfrey with the banana, but would you mix like fruit with fruit, like banana with pineapple or cacao, or you still would do everything separate?
For plant material, I do isolate. Sometimes I'd mix a few fruits, but I don't want it to get too confusing here. So let's go through this little process here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start at 0 and get ourselves to this stage. Then we're gonna come back to this one and continue, because this is 5 days in. So I did a little bit of pre-planning time travel for you guys. So I come out to my porch and I look at my bananas and I say, shit. Burned. I left them in the sun. What the heck am I gonna do with these? Right, this kind of like a thing where it's like it's spoiled, but it's not rotten yet, and it's not bad. Yeah, I could do banana bread, I could do all kinds of things. Except for at my house right now, I have like a rack of these ripening almost every day. So I got a bunch of bananas. What am I gonna do with it? Well, I ate a bunch, I froze a bunch, I kept a lot all around, but these ones that were burnt, I didn't even want to deal with. But what I can do is I can easily take a banana, and I could just mush this up too. But when I mush it up, it gets nastier. But basically what I do is I set up a very efficient process on my porch where I have the bananas and I just slice all this stuff really quickly. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking the bananas and I'm slicing them to increase their surface area. And I'm not trying to mush them, but instead what I'm doing is slicing it like this. You see how much surface area that is? The next step is I slice all these up. Then I'm going to take sugar. And when you use sugar, it can be white sugar, it can be brown sugar. The highest grade is like coconut sugar. But I buy this, it's $1 a pound. It's the most economical for me. And what I'm gonna do is just like making a kimchi, a sauerkraut, is I'm going to try to get the sugar to coat the surface of my material. Now this is a pretty thick coating, and if I sat here and I went to each of these pieces of banana and I did all this way, I would have some really nice, good quality product, but I'd probably also go out of business almost immediately. Too much time, but what I want you to see is what's happening to this piece of banana as I'm holding it. So the piece of banana itself was pretty dry, but as I put this banana on, or this sugar on, can you see what's starting to happen to the surface of it?
Yeah, it's getting wet.
It's getting wet. So what that is, that's osmotic pressure, and the sugar is drawing the nutrients of the banana out, and that is the stuff that I want to capture in this liquid. So this liquid is the juice that was drawn out by sugar into here and then fermented. So that is the reason for the sugar, that's the reason for the brown sugar being added to here. It's the reason I don't want to use things other than white sugar or brown sugar or coconut, those things here. It's this osmotic pressure. So ideally what I'm going to do is fill this bucket with all the cut bananas, and then I'll just take enough sugar, put it in, and kind of mix it together. That's by far the most easy process to go through. But I just wanted to show you that osmotic, the juice is actually being drawn out by sugar. And that's the reason I'm adding the sugar. If we go back to that other scenario where I just take bananas and I put them into water and I rot them, that vital juice doesn't come out, and basically it's just like that stuff rotting. It's not the same as this vital juice coming out and this being this product. The rotting bucket is also fertilizer and food, but not the same way that this is like the blood of the plant. This is like all the goodies, it's all the nutrient values in this. So is that clarifying? And the sugar, it pulls out the juice, it separates it, and that's what's happening here.
Do you have to use big batches, like a big full bucket at a time? Or can you use like smaller?
A lot of times I'm fermenting in half-gallon jars with certain things, or 5-gallon buckets depending on my quantity. But you want to match your jar to be, or your vessel to be about the right size.
You are very experienced, so you can know by feel and by look how much sugar to plant material.
Yep.
But is it, in general, some kind of a weight ratio you have in mind?
For the sweeter your thing is, the sweeter your material is, the more sugar I have to add. So these bananas are really sweet, more sugar than the Comfrey, which is less sweet.
Do you have a ratio that you typically use for 1 or 2 bananas for an ounce or 2 of sugar or anything like that?
For bananas, it's gonna be equal weight.
Parts.
Equal weight.
Weight.
Yep. So if I have 5 pounds of bananas, I should probably add 5 pounds of brown sugar to it.
Same with other fruits, or is it changed depending on the sweetness?
The sweeter it is,
Yeah.
then more sugar. Yeah. The Comfrey If the comfrey was 1 pound, I would add a ½ pound of sugar. So you might want to write this down. Banana, 1 pound equals 1 pound sugar. Comfrey, or like plant material, is 1 pound of plant material is ½ pound of sugar.
Were you saying that you can use white sugar as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
The difference with using white sugar is that it doesn't have the same mineral content.
Okay.
So your fermentation isn't as,
Mineral rich.
exactly.
Do you use honey?
What's that?
Do you use honey for that?
No, do not use honey. Sell your honey, get the money, buy the sugar. But the second reason you can't use honey is it's too much moisture content.
Do HFN sell the coconut sugar?
I don't know. I think probably the Island Naturals would bring it in bulk if you asked.
And where do you get that big bag of sugar?
That I got at Kilo Rice Mill. And I should really get sponsorships from these places.
Yeah.
So is all fruit equal weight with sugar?
The sweeter it is,
So like bananas is 1-on-1, but like pineapple peels?
are they sweet?
Yeah.
Well, the peels
Super.
aren't so much, but the fruit stuck on them is.
Yep. And so you little less sugar maybe if you're using a lot of the peely and more, but if there's more fruit, more sugar.
What about like noni? That ain't sweet.
No. But a lot of things like citrus and stuff, they hide the sweetness behind like citric acid. And so a lot of these things have a lot of sugars in them. But what I want you to think about is if I'm doing ripe bananas, sweeter, more sugar. Unripe bananas, less sweet, less sugar. And this whole spectrum kind of goes through. How much sugar to precisely add, we can kind of go through that little bit of a recipe.
There's not an app for that?
No. But there is a class for it and you're at it.
Okay.
There was a question about citrus. Can you use this for oranges and?
Be careful. They have a lot of citric acid. You don't want to burn other crops. So, so I think what I'm going to do here is instead of doing a whole 5-gallon bucket, I'm going to in fact just do a jar with you guys just to show. And the reason I like to do jars with classes is they're clear, so we get to see some of this stuff happening. So what I have here is the bananas in here, and you guys in the front row, can you see?
Yeah.
Can you tell what's happening in the back? How much sugar is there all over this material? Not enough is the answer. So what I'm going to do is take some sugar, plop it in, and then usually if you're going to do this large scale, think cement mixer. If you're going to do this small scale, think your hands or some other person around you that wants to do it. But check it out, you see still not enough sugar, and this example isn't as good with just the bananas. The Comfrey, you'll see this a lot more happening. But when I look at this, there's still banana without sugar on it. And so what I need to do is add more.
Can you over sugar it by any chance? Is there any possibility of you putting too much in?
If you put too much sugar, you're going to waste money, and it also it does what's called retarding fermentation, which just means it slows it down. Okay, and then in the front again here. So you can see how it's starting to get covered, starting to get liquid coming out of here, it's starting to pull that stuff out. But if I look at it, it looks like there's still spots open. So if in doubt, a little bit more sugar isn't going to hurt you. So I just put in another handful. And now when you look at this material, get it all off the bottom, cement mixing.
Whoa. got goopy fast.
Yeah. So you see all the liquid coming out of it, the goop, it's just getting all slushy and goopy. This now, that's enough sugar. Now I've got osmotic pressure happening. Now I've gotten the nutrients coming out. This is like where it's at. That's enough sugar. If I continue to add sugar at this point, it actually slows things down. So this is then packed into a fermentation vessel.
So you're not adding any water?
No water. So all those juices you tasted, no water. That's why they're so potent. That's why they're so powerful. So this then he's packed into my vessel.
Is there a difference between,
And see how there's airspace? No good. Find a container you can fit your hand in, smush this stuff down, get rid of the airspace. There's still a little bit more airspace. Get it down, smush it out. Do this with kids, they love it.
Smashing kids like that into a jar.
Slice those kids up.
No, not do this with kids.
How to make your kids more
Man,
nutritious.
somebody, man.
Increase the nutrient
Bad
value.
sense of humor.
Dude.
Oh boy,
Mm.
that's some nice goop.
Yeah, and you see how goopy this is. That's the key. If I'd done this with liquid or molasses or anything else, and there's still a tiny airspace, I'm not gonna get that out because I'm lazy right now. But usually I'd smush that down with a stick or something. And I want to fill my jar up to about 2/3. This one's a little bit over, but right in your 2/3 mark, you're gonna get the best fermentation happening. But you see how easy that was? A little bit of sugar, some bananas in here, this goop, this stuff. This
My hands aren't even dirty. Really?
That was beautiful.
And how long does this sit in here?
So that is step one. And this is any material that we do. Now the question is, how do we move on from here? So let's all close our eyes. And let's wake up and it's next Thursday.
Okay.
Well, hello, good friends. No, basically, anywhere between 3 days to about 7 days. I did this one 5 days ago. But come up and give it a smell. Everyone come and give it a smell.
Cover it.
No, from here.
Sort of. Yeah.
Do you cover it?
It was covered, so hang on, I'll go back to how it was. I just took the cover off till I took it out.
Covered completely with a lid or with air?
breathable?
I'll go over that stuff, I realize. Good job.
I kinda know what it smells like, yeah. If it gets too damp for it, like that.
Yeah.
Can I smell?
What do you want to do? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I had you guys all come up and smell it because you smell that it is clearly fermented. This batch, I went a little long on it. And so what did you guys smell?
Vinegary?
So there are two smells, like besides whatever else coming out of here that I want you to pay attention to, and the vinegary smell and the alcoholic smell. And people reported that they smelled both. That is because this is done, and in fact this is done like a couple days too long. I probably should have poured this off 2 days ago, but then I thought about it, I was like, I'll just leave it and bring it to the class. It'll work out better for me. So this liquid here, was covered with a breathable lid, just like this. And I put a string around it, just like this. And
Keep
this was
bugs out?
sitting on my porch, okay? So we went from this, the one thing left here is to put a lid on this. And then put this someplace where it's, you know, just out of direct sunlight. And that's exactly how this was sitting on my porch, just with this cloth lid. Sometimes I'll use paper towel or whatever.
When you said lid on the jar, do you mean a breathable lid or
A cloth, something like this. Don't put the sealed lid.
okay.
So just with a cloth over it like this.
Don't you ever have trouble with rodents getting into it?
No. But those are
Ferments the
all
rodents.
things that you might have issue with, and think about those things. They don't seem to mess with these buckets here.
So a smaller jar should take less time than a bigger bucket, yeah? Or not really?
They're all gonna take about the same time.
Rick, you may be gonna go into this, but since you left it a couple days long, as you said, maybe it went long, and you're winding up with some portions of vinegar in there, but since you often want to put vinegar on your plants anyway, that's not a bad thing, is it?
So I do not want this to rot. When I went to the Philippines, so let me just go through this here. I want to pour this off at the right time, because like I was saying, I went through this whole health food thing, and I went through and saying this has iron in it, and this has magnesium, this has calcium. The longer I wait, the first fermentation that happens, the nutrients are unlocked. The next fermentation that happens, those nutrients are then used for the next generation that grows in this bucket. The next generation uses them again. And if I leave this bucket here for like a year or two, it will just convert to a vinegar, and all my nutrients that I had in the beginning will be converted down eventually to like acetic acid and things that are, and I don't have my nutrients. So the longer I leave this and the longer it rots, the more my nutrients break down. So what I want to do is I want to pour this off right now and freeze it at its peak nutrient content.
Vinegar has its place, but not here for what this purpose.
If my solution becomes vinegary, it's just the nutrients are broken down more. So it has its place, but not right here. So to filter these things off, I just use a paint strainer, which is somewhere up there. So I get these paint strainer bags at any hardware store. They're a few dollars. And then take the liquid. So this is our fermented batch. It's been sitting, it's ready for us. And I just pour it off. So all this liquid you're seeing, no water was added. This is what happened to this solution here in a few days. The liquid starts to emerge. And so this way I can get all this nutrient back out from my bananas that otherwise would have been like, you know, maybe I would have composted them, something, turned them into something, but.
Okay if they're overripe?
Yeah. So now the question becomes, can I squeeze it out of here? Can I smash it? Can I get it out easier? Can I do all this? All those things you Sure you can, but the way I'm doing it right here is I'm keeping most of the crap, which are the solids, in here, and just the liquids are coming out. And what I do at home is I actually take this, pour it into this sack, and then suspend the sack above it, and let it all drain out. For ease of right now, I'm just gonna leave the rest of this in here. And there's more that I would hang up and drain out, but I'm not gonna do that right now, just because I don't need every drop right now for class. I now have this liquid.
That's a lot.
Obviously, you're not gonna render this much out of this jar, but this was only 3 gallons of bananas. And about 4 or 5 pounds of sugar or something, whatever it was into here. This liquid is now my food. This is my plant juice and my food.
And so you said you went in 2 days, a couple over should be, but is that a big deal or not really?
No, it's not really that big of a deal. And anyone want to give it a taste? I'll send it around.
If it's just starting to form vinegar, then you still have a lot of the plant juice.
Yep.
Nutrients.
You should read more juice out of it.
So imagine you had just composted these bananas and not done this. I mean, that's like all this deliciousness.
Just doesn't.
Can you compost the leftovers, solids?
We're gonna go into what we do with the leftovers after this. What we're gonna finish up. No, good question. And we'll go into that because that'll turn into something else. What we're gonna do is we're gonna finish up with this liquid right now. So I'm passing that around the taste. You can taste it has a little sugar in it a little bit, but the other solutions you tasted were actually had more sugar added to them to make them shelf stable. This solution as is has too much moisture in it and will continue to rot.
Can you repeat that again? What happened to make the shelf stable?
We're gonna add sugar.
What you said about vinegar having less nutrients and everything, if you have an older fermented plant juice, is that how you tell that it's too old because it starts to taste like vinegar?
Yes. But it's, yeah, you're correct. Yeah. So this here, if I just leave this out, this is gonna turn to vinegar. If I seal it with a sealed lid and I somehow let it burp, and it may just explode if I seal it too tight. But if I seal this and I let it burp the stuff out and no oxygen enter, this will turn into alcohol. The speed at which that happens depends on kind of the sugar content and the moisture content. If I'm gonna use this in the next week, this is fine, I can stop here. I've now gone through plant material, through my sugar process, got my juice. I'm set, I can use this within a week. Or if I have a fridge, I can put this in the fridge.
It'll stay good in the fridge.
However, if I want it to stay good outside, like where we are, like these are, I need to add additional sugar to preserve it.
And that stops the fermentation?
It arrests the fermentation.
Now,
And
at
so-
this point, can we use any type of sugar to sweeten, or are we still maintaining?
White sugar or brown sugar? So what'd you guys think of the banana juice?
Good.
It's really good.
Cool, right?
Yeah.
The same, like the peels taste almost just like that, like the fruit. One of my favorite things to make this from is like tips of different plants, and you get that same flavor that comes through. So, yeah. So to finish this liquid up and to finish our food and to make it shelf stable, what we need to do is add a little more sugar to this to super saturate it. I'm gonna show this to you guys because this is a process that, unlike the beginning where I said fruits need equal weight of sugar, and unsweet things need half the weight. This does not have a amount that I can give to you. This is always different, so you have to pay attention to this right now to know, because every time it's different. So, what I want you to notice, everyone can see this up here, watch, see the top of it, is I'm going to add sugar into this. And at first, well, this one's actually pretty good. So the sugar, it's not really staying on the surface right now. Watch the surface as I put this sugar on. It's staying there for a second or two, and then it's sinking in. Can you guys see that? So this one's actually pretty close, meaning that it's actually, there's enough sugar already. I want to stir it.
There's saturated, and then there's super saturated.
Right, and we're going for super saturation. And as I'm going to add a little more sugar. So you see how now it's starting to sit on the surface for a second there? That is really good. That is the sign I'm looking for. And this one didn't need very much sugar. It was already pretty sweet. Other ones may need more. So
Maybe the longer you let it sit while it's fermenting, the more sugar it takes.
not necessarily. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, the tape is right in the way.
That makes sense.
Okay, so as I'm adding this last bit of sugar, it's hanging out on the surface. It's not really sinking it over. It's starting to. You see it's hanging up out there? And it's just hanging on the surface before it goes in? When that phenomenon starts happening, you're really getting close to super saturation. And that means that now all your moisture is tied up with sugar. And there's no moisture for the microbes to continue to reproduce. So the water went into the sugar, and now the microbes have no water. They're now, all my microbes right now are in here and they're saying, I'm thirsty. Where'd all the water go? I'm dying. Like, they're not, they're just like, they're going to sleep right now. If you could hear them, you'd be like, good night.
So last week you.
That doesn't melt at the bottom. If you have any layer of sugar at the bottom, then it means you have too much. You just want enough to saturate it.
Yes. If you have a ring start to develop at the bottom, you put too much sugar in. So if you don't want a ring, like I want just the thinnest ring to be at the bottom.
So if you stop stirring and leave it for 5 minutes, you should see the ring knot.
Hopefully. We'll see if we did it right and if we get a ring for ours. We'll leave it here. See.
So last week you had the rice with the sugar in it, and it had microbes, and was that the same principle? You had enough sugar in there to the rest growth?
Exact same. The sugar puts the microbes to sleep.
Okay.
And so how long does this last now?
So this here, now that we've added the sugar, this is now stabilized at room temperature, and it will last a couple years. The flavor changes, but it lasts and it's good.
So if it lasts a couple years with the lid on outside of the sunlight, is that correct?
Yeah. Like I have it stored on my porch, which gets about this much sunlight, and it's there.
No burping necessary?
No.
Possible
Once in a
explosion.
while you can. I mean, hopefully you're gonna. These things are alive though,
Yeah.
so don't just forget about them and be like, oh,
Do you want to aerate them once in a while? Give them air?
nah.
No. And does it matter how much space is on top? And that
Your only thing with storage is you want it to fill approximately 2/3 of your container. Having this much in a container is a recipe for it to rot and go bad. If I had that much in the container, it'd be okay. This little bit, this is gonna rot and go bad within like a month or two. I really need to use the rest of it. Yeah, if I took this and I put it into a smaller container and it filled up more of it, it'd be fine. But it's when it's a tiny bit in a big container, this bit rots.
And if it's too full, what happens? You can fill it all the way to the top?
Yeah, but it's gonna be messy, but go for it. Yeah,
Did you say you should seal the cap tight?
I do.
Or, okay, is there anything that we're making that we should keep loose?
Anything that you haven't super saturated.
That's not, should be loose?
Okay, so we got our banana food here. Is that clear to everybody?
What's the ratio? You mix it with water when you spray it on the top.
To use it? Do you have the app?
That's what the app is for?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's in there. It's under it's food, or this is also called a fermented plant juice. Because essentially we took plant material and we're fermenting it to get a juice out. Fermented plant juice.
Is there a difference between the fermented, the fruit juice and fermented leaf juice? Or is just the nutrients you're trying to get out of a particular one?
So this is a good segue to talk about that I can match this solution with my plant growth. Meaning that I just did it from fruits. When should I spray this on my banana tree? When it's a young tree, when it's a medium tree, or when it's a fruiting tree? Well, correct answer is I could spray it any of those times. It's going to be most beneficial when it's fruiting. If I make it from a young banana tree, should I spray it on my bananas when they're young, medium, or old?
Yeah.
The answer again is every time, but they're going to get the most benefit when they're young. So I can use fruit on young and I can use young stuff on old. But if I match them up and I make it from young bananas and I spray it back to young bananas, they're going to boost. If I make it from banana fruit and I spray it on my bananas when they're fruiting, they're going to, or right before they're fruiting, they're going to really also boost. So these nutrients can be taken from the different stages. So make it from fruits when things are fruiting, make it from leaves when things are growing leaves, and just match it up in your head. You guys probably have really good ideas of what you can match up.
Has there been any studies on which has the most nutrients, like what part you'd want to use? Do you want to use like mostly peel or mostly the start root of the banana when it first starts to come out as bananas? Have you guys done anything like that?
No, but that's a good thing to research. I think each of them has their own nutrient profile. And one thing that can be really beneficial here, especially where it rains a lot, is to make this from unripe fruit. The plant juice, it likes, your plants like that the best.
Why?
To make from unripe fruit.
Green bananas, huh?
The transition period is the hardest here in Hawaii. You'll see plants that'll get really big, and then they'll put flowers and they'll drop all their flowers. Oftentimes it's the hardest thing for our transition period here. And if you're able to, unripe fruit is that stage where it's going before juvenile to being mature. If you're spraying that, it helps it go through that transition.
And it's okay to spray the bananas on like mangoes and vice versa, like.
Do you remember what tastes like banana?
Maybe. Those properties can somewhat transfer over.
You always prefer in your practice to.
I was really, there was mangoes everywhere, but you know how the mangoes down on Red Road have they come and have the fungus? And I really wanted to make them ferment, but then I was worried about the fungus.
Yeah.
And
Those are all good questions and concerns.
what do you do?
Like I'm trying to explain a general concept here and let your spiritual self unfold in terms of I've been going on this concept of the secret society lately. And we're building a secret society, and this is like their food that they're gonna serve. And so think of it, if you're gonna feed your secret society, your invisible friends, rotten mangoes, that's like or good mangoes. In my case, I'm feeding my microbes sunburnt bananas. They're like, man, these are sunburnt. I want a refund. No, they're gonna be happy, but
But mangoes here have that fungus on the outside, they're not rotten, that fungus grows on the outside.
that's broken down in fermentation.
That's what I'm gonna, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But think of it though. Like,
Banana virus would be broken down as well, I'd be curious.
no, go like, yeah, you gotta figure that out. So.
Can you explain the chubby formula and the sweet? Well, like, what do you mean by chubby?
It's a plant characteristic, but we'll go into that on another day. What do I do with this stuff?
Yeah.
Compost?
Vinegar.
Like a new batch.
There's still a lot of liquid in it. I could pour more of this off. I could get more juice out. That's probably my best value right now. Leaving a lot of this juice in here though, what I can do is I can go 2 pathways, or I can go 3 pathways. The 2 pathways I'm going to talk about, and a third is unknown to up to your imagination, whatever else you want to do. The third, I'm not going to limit you on that one. But the 2 pathways I'm going to talk about is one, I can go and take this and make it into a vinegar, and that is a fermentation with air.
Just add water.
If I just add water to this, and in fact this is this juice here, if I just add water to this, twice as much water, so if I have 1 gallon of this, I add 2 gallons of water to it, and you leave it, you see this thing growing on there?
Mm-hmm.
This round disc, it's like a pancake in there, you can't really see it, there's some sediment below. That's a SCOBY. This is creating vinegar.
Wow.
So this vinegar SCOBY, by just adding twice as much water to this, I'll get vinegar, just like this. And then this, I'm not sure this vinegar is ready. I'm gonna taste it right now and see.
What?
This was made 5/3/19, so a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And it's not ready yet, but it's getting there. It tastes good. But this is starting to get that pucker taste to it. It's starting to convert to vinegar. This one is from banana fruits juice that I just added water to.
How long does that process take?
To get a vinegar that's less than 2.4 pH, which is the definition of vinegar, usually takes about 3 months. 3 to 6 months. It depends on temperature, all kinds of things. But
Do you do it from the juice that's been super saturated?
either way,
That's right there, not the one that's before.
either way, you can do
Either
it
way.
from either. And then, so I can make it from this juice, saturated, unsaturated, either way. But I can also make it from this stuff, my leftovers. So what do? I add twice as much water to this. So I look in here and there's bananas and there's still some juice left. And I say, oh, well, it's here. That means I should add twice as much water and it would be almost up to here. Ideally, I'd get about 2/3 of my bucket and get all those properties correct. But I can just take my leftover stuff, add water to it, and this will turn into a vinegar for me.
Wait, I have a lot of mangoes. Do you have to slice the mangoes and take the pit out?
If you're just gonna make a vinegar,
Yeah.
throw it
No,
in there.
for the plant juice. Is there kind of already they drop and they're already kind of rotted, and can I just throw those in the bucket and do the plant juice without taking the pit out? Or I
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
take the pit?
Yeah, I just filter out the pit later.
So for the vinegar, you had done that one in May, and so it's already August, so it's still needing to go longer.
It's about 3 months, but it's not quite done yet. It's getting close.
Right. So
Yeah.
long, okay.
At 3 to 6 months, I'm not. Yeah, you gotta take a pH test strip and test it to see if your pH is below 2.4.
Two below what?
2.4 is a vinegar. So that is pathway 1, vinegar. Vinegar is then useful in natural farming. We'll come back to that. Pathway 2 is the Tincture Method. So this one is your medicine. Remember I started off today and I said I was going to talk about food, cleanser, and medicine? This one is the medicine route. So after I'm done here, and I've done fermentation, I've done my food, I'm left with this material. I could have gone the vinegar route. Pathway 2 is this medicine route. The fermentation opened up all my plant cells and everything. Just like, that's how the juice came out, was it microscopically opened those? What I do in the medicine route is I add vodka to this. Or some sort of alcohol that's above like 30-35%. Vodka meets that criteria. The highest quality fleischmann's.
Sorry, you just said, you add your vodka to what of those particular?
When I'm done with this, here,
Just the sediments,
I can then add alcohol and do a tincture route and go this way. And this is a tincture.
You leave the liquid that's with your mash in the bottom, or you?
That comes down to you
Okay.
and what you're making it from and what your material's like. If I, instead of pouring this out of here, I just then tincture this with alcohol, that'd be fine too.
How long does that medicine have to set up before you use it on your garden?
So this extracts out different qualities of different plants than this type of fermentation. This tincturing pulls out different things. They're alcohol soluble, and it takes about 2 weeks in this jar. And as they're in there for 2 weeks, if you stir it every day and agitate it, get it to stir, it pulls those things out even better. After 2 weeks, I can pour off the alcohol.
What percentage of alcohol did you say again?
Vodka, like 35%. So the vodka was just dumped in, yeah, and it's about equal vodka. Okay. You can move closer too, but I can also increase the volume of this thing.
Can you use that alcohol again?
So the tincturing process comes out and you get your material. I want the liquid, so after 2 weeks I pour off the liquid, reserve that. Then I can reload the solids back with more alcohol. And certain materials, especially herbal materials, you can get up to 5 extracts out of this. So that thing that I had you taste was garlic and ginger and cinnamon, licorice and angelica. We'll send that around again. But I poured that off 5 times. So that means I poured the vodka in, and there's a process to do this that's actually in the book. But right now, understanding that you have these 2 pathways. After you've made this food, you can either go and make a vinegar, or you can get these additional medicinal values out. So this is now a tool, and this one here, this is angelica. And so as an angelica tincture, this is highly medicinal stuff. And one thing you want to be careful when you're tincturing with alcohol is to have a sealed lid. If I put a breathable lid, the alcohol will evaporate out. So anytime I add alcohol, seal it. And this one I can taste the alcohol sort of evaporating out because this rubber seal sucks. So be careful. Seal your tinctures really well.
It doesn't decrease. The 5th extraction is just as potent as the 1st extraction.
So the question is the 5th extraction as potent as the 1st extraction? No. The different properties come out at different times. And there's a whole science of tincturing, and I really encourage you to look into that. The general concept to get across is that you can use this tincturing process
to get additional things out.
And we just to use 2 times the alcohol, the amount of plant material to the amount of alcohol.
The amount of alcohol is about equal volume. When I'm tincturing, it's the vinegar is twice the water. The tincturing here is this was filled about here with material that was fermented first, and then it was tinctured up, so it's about twice the volume for the tincturing.
And I guess you could divide the banana slush and do some vinegar and some tincture.
I could make both, correct. Tincturing the banana with liquor is probably not the best idea. Tincturing here with other things like the comfrey is a good idea. There's a lot of medicinal things in the comfrey that I can get out, the banana not so much. What we usually do this tincturing process with are garlic, ginger, cinnamon, licorice, and angelica. And twice the amount of angelica as the others when you're combining them. Those 5 herbs are traditionally used in natural farming because they add for female reproduction or reproductive health and also digestive health. When those 5 are used and they're used, you just tincture like this and then combine them together and use them. That tends to be very effective at countering things like powdery mildew or any kind of like sooty molds. And these herbs are a way to naturally keep away fungal infections.
If you don't have antennae evidence, you don't have it, you still get good results maybe, and fungal with all the other things.
The way I teach people is that if you understand this concept of understanding that I'm tincturing to get out different medicinal qualities, I want to empower you to do mix and match how you like and find your blend. This happens if you're going to say that you're going to make the Korean natural farming OHN trademark PM, then please include those 5 herbs in that recipe, and that's in the book. But if you're going to just start tincturing other things that you want to get medicinal value out of, call it whatever you want, call it something different, but it's your medicinal tincture. So as a farmer, I believe you should be empowered to have these tools, because there's lots of plants right around us that have these same reproductive qualities and also digestive qualities. And that means we can ferment these things here and do this tincturing here. And we don't have to buy angelica off Amazon or cinnamon from around the world. We can grow it here. So I want to empower you as farmers to understand the concepts, the principles of what these are, and to answer your own questions. To start thinking in your own head. If I was going to ask Drake this question right now, do I have the tools in this tool bag that have been given to me that I can answer this question within myself? Which is, are my plants hungry? Do they need cleansing? Do they need medicine? You now have those 3 tools in a certain sense of this, of that you can understand we went through this process, and the other was just adding water or adding vodka. You now have those tools to like be a sovereign individual that doesn't have to go to the health food store and buy stuff from that wall anymore. In fact, you can now market your products there. Have the Puna Noni ferment and now start healing people, and we can become domestically sovereign. So that's what I'm really here to do, is to unlock your mind. Give you these tools to put you as a farmer. But a farmer, you guys know what farming means? It means to pay rent on land. So, with this, a lot of hand waving stuff so far. What I want to empower you guys to do is to go home and to make one of these. And to bring it back to the next class, either pour it off and bring it back and bring it to class, or to make it, you know, at home, like, because I want you to use this opportunity with me to make these things, to show me that you can do it, but also that you can start making tools for your own farm. And as a teacher, I get to check, is this correct or not when you bring it back. So you guys have some homework today. And it's to make one of these fermented plant juices. So any questions on that?
On the medicine one, can that be used for pests or just for more fungus?
The medicine?
The medicine one, that you, the recipe that you can say is,
How do you use medicine?
well, for plants, you said can be used for more than that. But I feel like a pest is also, the plant is sick, too, right?
So what it does is it strengthens your plant, and then the pests don't want to attack a healthy plant. That's the medicine.
They're sweet, obviously, kind of, do they attract ants and whatnot? Is there a problem with that spraying on the plant?
When you go to spray these on the plant, they're so dilute that it won't cause problems with ants. In your storage, be smart about it. So what I wanted to do now was to do this one more time, because this is your homework. So you guys are gonna have to be like, do I know how to do this? You're gonna get home, you're gonna be like, in class that was easy, but then now I'm at home, what do I do? How do I do this? Am I doing it right? So now you've seen me do it, and I talked a little bit about it. It was probably a lot of information, but there's a lot of, you know, hopefully you're absorbing this. We're gonna have two people come up here and do a little demonstration. And then we actually have enough material that a few of you can get involved to make your own after this other demonstration. So we're gonna have these two fine ladies over here come on up. So I'd like to introduce Jennifer Weinert and Taylor Smith. And they are going to be our beautiful demonstration here. So any questions you have, direct towards them, and I will be here just to make sure things stay safe. And, come on.
Aloha. Aloha. This morning, Taylor and I harvested comfrey leaves from our farm. We were a little bit late. Ideally, we would have harvested them at first light. The reason you harvest at first light is so that the properties of growth are most prevalent in the tips of the leaves at that time, reaching for the sun, if you will. We did it a little bit later, but we're going to do it anyway. And that is the rule that Drake always teaches, which is do it when you can. The rule zero is do it whenever you can. So we did. Also, it's important when you're harvesting leaves to make fermented plant juice is that they're not wet. If there's a little bit of dew from overnight, that's fine. But if you think right now you're going to go out and pick these leaves and use them, it's not going to work because you're introducing a bunch of water, and you've heard Drake say that we don't want water in there. Okay? So we did that. It was dry when we picked up. Take some leaves, put them in there. Can I have some sugar? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay, so you put about this much in a bowl. Handful of sugar. Not that much. And we start this process of loaming. You want to do it? Okay, go ahead. I'll hold it. And not break breaking the leaves, but just this massaging sort of technique. And the intention is to coat the entire surface with the brown sugar. Why?
So the juice comes out.
Osmotic pressure. Osmotic, to draw the juice out. It's not the juice necessarily we want. What we want are the properties that are within the juice, right? We want the juice, but we want what the comfrey gives us. Okay, so I'm gonna go for it. So you just go for it, like this. Starting to get there.
So if anyone else wants to come up and jump in, like around here and see what's happening too, you guys can come see and not sign emergency.
So if I were to do noni, could I use fruit of any, medium, rare, ripe, kind of ripe, riper, and leaves, or would you just stick with the fruit, or?
What are you trying to accomplish?
So you can see the change. You saw the leaves, the dry leaves that went in there? Look at it now, it's a little bit damp. It's definitely limp. I didn't break the leaves apart, they're just starting to wilt, if you will. Okay, so at this point, there's a tiny bit of extra sugar, but not a lot. At this point, I would take this and I would pack it into the jar. And we're ready for round 2. So if somebody else wants to come up and try it, feel free.
Isn't that comfrey sort of rough and hairy? Doesn't bother your hands?
You know, the first time I did it, I really was like, ew, ew, ew. It hurt. I felt like it hurt. And now, not at all. I'm just used to it. I'm going to take these leaves and just break them in half because this bowl is small. Yeah, another handful. Maybe 2.
And totally better both of this is to cut it out to make smaller pieces, is that right? For some reason you don't want to cut it?
So you can break it up a little bit.
Open the cells and more juice will come out. If you cut up bananas, why don't you cut up the comfrey?
That's a question for Drake. If you can cut up bananas, why do we not cut up the plant material? I just tear it a little bit.
So the whole deal with cutting things up is to make it so it's manageable so you can get it in your mixing vessel. If I was loading a cement mixer and I was going to load it with a bunch of this comfrey, would I sit there and chop it up?
No.
I just throw in the cement mixer, throw in my sugar, turn that sucker on, run it, dump it out, I'd be done, right? If I'm going to make it so that I can fit bananas into a jar this size to show you guys, am I going to try to smash the bananas in without breaking their peel or anything?
No.
So I cut it to break the peel up a little bit to create more surface area. Surface area is key, but ease and speed.
I'm just wondering if something is cutting up the comfrey into smaller pieces would break more cells up and let you release more juice. But it sounds like
Definitely, and yeah. So and it's good what's happening so far here.
Okay, here we go. More. Anybody else want to come up?
Yeah. So there's a question about slugs on there, and the slugs, the rat lung is neutralized through fermentation, but I cannot promise if you're eating a slug what's going to happen. So, but you shouldn't wash your material because you're going to wash off the microbes that are on it. Same like I I shouldn't buy store-bought fruit and try to ferment it,
Try it.
because all the microbes are gone.
So I have a similar question, like when the mangoes fall from the tree, they already have bugs. So it's okay to throw those bugs in there? Or should I just pick fresh mangoes and start with that?
So I bet you can answer that question.
Well, I want to use the mangoes that are already on the ground that, you know, I would throw away and, but yeah, they have bugs, so is that okay to put in the ferment?
So you guys want to know what's in what the stuff you drank? No. I try to keep it as clean as I can all the time. Start with clean buckets, start with clean food, start with good sugar.
You might not want animal protein in it, or non-plant.
So think cement mixer when she's mixing this, yeah? She's asking, should she squeeze? What's the answer?
Yes.
What does a cement mixer do? Does a cement mixer squeeze?
No.
Tumbles. Blend.
So can I just take this for 1 second? So you guys can see what she's doing here, and you see this. If she continues mixing this right now, yeah. So getting, and then but the thing is here, if I look at it from the top, I gotta also look at the bottom and see is there sugar still hiding underneath. Sometimes there's very little. So in this case, it needs more sugar to go into this. Yeah? And don't be afraid of the sugar more. Always a little more is better than a little less.
I'd like to suggest that, because I do medicinal teas and sell them, I've had a business for about 3 years, Watkins Life, that when I do my picking and processing, I actually put a huge intent into what I'm doing. So while I'm massaging, while I'm picking, I'm thinking about who I'm going to heal and where this is going and what it's going to cure.
Now you can up the how much of a starlight child can you be? How much consciousness can you deliver to the macrocosm? I say go for it, man. You want to show folks what's going on there? See, yeah, Mom, show you're in charge here.
So, look at the difference in the change, right? We didn't have enough sugar, and now she's done this. And in my opinion, it's ready to pack. It looks like it's glistening. It looks really well coated. It's ready to put into the jar. Do you see?
Is there liquid in the bottle?
No, not yet, but just you wait. It's coming. So go ahead and pack that.
In the book on medicine,
Yeah.
it doesn't have any uses for plants. So how can you use the medicine plant?
Well, all the usage is on the beginning part of that. So the usage is on like is
Oh, somewhere.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's a chart that shows how to use them all.
Just haven't been through.
Oh yeah.
And you just asked if there was any juice yet? Wow. It's already happening. And this will continue. So, Drake talked a little bit earlier about 2/3, right? Are we finished?
Almost.
It's gonna pack down.
You gotta crush that in.
We're not finished, are we? We're not at 2/3. So I'm gonna keep going. Who's next? Come on, somebody else. Come up.
Can you use rubber gloves?
You know, you can, and I've seen photos of people doing that. And to me, there's no way what this lady mentioned earlier about getting your hands in there in your mana, if you're wearing rubber gloves. You just get over it. It doesn't hurt me at all now. Or don't do comfrey. There's so many other plants, yeah?
Comfrey offered so much.
Comfrey's an amazing plant. It is. So what you do is you make it with your friend that has tougher hands, and then you swap, right? A little bit for each of us. You make something different. You make it out of mint or something amazing, and then share. do that. Do you want to hear my story about Comfrey? I have a few. So I've been making fermented plant juices for about 3 years now, maybe a little more. And one of the first ones I made was Comfrey because I happen to have a lot of it on my farm. And little did I know the properties of it. Later I learned, Drake told me a few stories here and there. I went to the dentist, this was probably 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and to get all the metal out of my mouth, from my cavities. It's not, you're not supposed to have metal in your mouth. It's gonna give me brain problems. So I got all the metal out and replaced it with porcelain. And in the process, the dentist inadvertently cracked one of my teeth. I wasn't even bummed. I was happy to have the metal out. He said, "Oh, we have a cracked tooth. We'll have to watch that." I said, "Oh, okay." I go home. I said, "Oh man," Drake's like, "How's your day?" I told him this is what happened. He said, "Just swish with the Comfrey. It's bone knit. That's the property of Comfrey. It's also good for burns, but it's incredible for bones." So I put sugar in my teeth. I swished it as long as I could. I did it a couple times a day. And in about a week, 10 days, no more cracked tooth. Woo! No more cracked tooth. Gone. Woo! Gone. So it's amazing for that. There's many stories about Comfrey. Drake, what are some of the ones you know? Other ones? Any other ones from Oh, I had a friend that had a severe burn. Severe burn from a weed eater, actually. And he showed it to me, and I was like, "Oh my God, you need the Comfrey." I didn't give him the fermented plant juice. However, he came by my farm and he got the Comfrey and put the poultice on. 3 days later, healed. I mean, pink, but healed. Fine. Very little scar. Amazing. Comfrey is an amazing plant. I encourage you to use it. Just do it.
What about ingesting the
Okay.
Comfrey?
We're almost there. What?
What about ingesting the Comfrey?
Oh, I do it every day. I have, every day I take lactic acid bacteria, which I think Drake talked to you about, where he makes from the rice with the milk. The rice washed in the milk?
Not yet.
Oh, it's coming. Okay, I take that every day in my water, and I take a concoction of this with also the medicine, the oriental herbal nutrient that he talked about, the 5 herbs that's in the book right there, and also the brown rice vinegar. So I make a solution. I have those 3 already made, and I just go boop, 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 done.
May I ask about Comfrey, taking Comfrey internally? There's been some controversy.
A lot of controversy, yeah.
What do you think? You're taking it. You said you take this particular one.
I'm here.
Every day for years.
I don't take Comfrey exclusively. I make a lot of different plant juices. So I believe doing anything, just one thing. I believe in variety, diversity. And so I do a lot of different things.
But like, because you had that cracked tooth, you did it consistently for the week and a half.
Oh yeah.
To focus on
I did
that.
not swallow it.
Right. You
I
just
took a
switched it.
shot of it.
Yeah.
You know, I did that. So I
Right.
was not going to drink that much of it.
Right.
Although I don't think it would have hurt me. I don't know. I can't tell you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, right on.
Yeah, I used it for that purpose.
Yeah.
I think it's the Comfrey leaf is safe, the root is not safe, right?
Okay, she uses the leaf that's okay and not the root. There's conflicting information on the internet, which we know is the truth, always. So, you know, a little bit, try a little bit, see what happens. You know, be sensitive to how it is affecting you. Steam it in Indian and Comfrey with the new shoots. Sometimes we make pancakes out of them. With the new leaves that are emerging, we coat them and make little pancakes out of them and eat them. So I do eat it. I'm okay.
There's a particular type of Comfrey that has more problems than the others. The blue leaf is good, the blue flower, but the white flower isn't. It's good.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I researched it because I had shattered my shoulder at 62. And they didn't think my shoulder would ever work again, and I just made tinctures and drank it.
And drank it also.
I drank it. I looked it up. I said, what can I do? And I drank it, and the doctor could not believe that I totally recovered.
So it is,
It
it's,
only,
it,
yeah, it took me a couple months before it really happened. And he was like,
so
at
that's,
your age, it'll take years.
I think that's the beauty of this, what you're learning here. As I started to study natural farming more, I realized that I'm just a walking plant. I realized that as I'm on my farm and everything else, I mean, they can't move. It's up to me to provide a nice environment for them because they can't move anywhere. But I'm just a walking plant. So all the things that are good for them are good for me. I know they are. Yeah. We have very much the same constitutions as plants. We really do. Okay. Eyes up here. What do you think? Do you think it's done?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tell you need a little bit more from experience. Even though it's at about 2/3, close to 3/4, 2/3, I would put in about this much more because it's going to shrink down. It is going to shrink down. Put in just, finish what you have there, or at least half that. Put it about half that in.
You could pack it down a little bit more. And then
Yeah, and you know, the more, the better that you can get a fist where it's, you know, really no airspace as much as possible. Yeah, that's great.
Flowers or white flowers.
I don't have any flowers on my Comfrey, so I don't know. It's never flowered.
50-pound bag of chicken.
Isn't that weird? I have it inside of a hoop house, so I wonder if that's why.
You keep
Okay.
you don't grow your comfrey
Check.
outside?
No, I don't. No, Drake may. What do you think?
Yes.
Pretty good?
Yeah.
Would anybody add any more?
I would.
Maybe a little bit
I
more.
had a little bit.
Finish it up. Finish it up. Can you believe how much juice is in it?
Already.
So Comfrey's nice and red. There's a whole lot. Bananas are nice.
What's the most beneficial?
Yeah, whichever's thriving on your land, and then that's the best for your area. Yeah. All the weeds
All
that
the
are
weeds
thriving.
will grow,
Weeds,
yeah.
you can use weeds, huh?
Yeah. So what plants do you want to use? We mentioned a few that are really good, but ideally for your soil, like what does my soil need in Onamea? What does your soil need here in terms of nutrients? The weeds that are growing are your medicinal, healing, scab, I'm gonna fix this system plants. So the weeds that are growing where I live are the nutrients that my soils need.
So the cane grass?
The weeds that are growing where you live are the nutrients your soils need. So by taking those nutrients, or taking those plants, fermenting them, and then spreading those nutrients back, you're fulfilling the niche that weed is trying to play. And if nature says it doesn't, you know, its niche is already filled, then it doesn't need to fill in with those weeds. And what happens, it's not like a magic bullet, but what happens is as all these things start to rebalance, and you're providing some of these systems and reinforcing them, then the weeds and those things aren't as problematic. They don't have a wound to heal because you've already done the healing. So what happens where people put microbes and these biostimulants where there's lots of cane grass, is the cane grass suddenly becomes very easy to remove from the soil. Whereas right now it's anchored in there, you'd have to hit it with a pick and try to pull it out. After doing this for a couple months, the soil now has those nutrients and the cane grass just comes out.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Not promising miracles, but that's what starts to happen as your soil becomes richer and these niches are filled, that you'll start to notice things that have changed.
So can you do the grass with the sugar too, or like last time you said just add water? Doesn't
Yeah.
matter?
You can do either way. So let's, any last questions for them on this? Here.
Okay, I just wanna tell you what we're gonna finish up with here. So we feel comfortable that this is gonna sink down a little bit. It's basically at 2/3. Okay, we're happy with it. We wiped the jar off. We got all this because of bugs and things like that. We wanna discourage that. Plus it's clean. And then just now Taylor is making a label for it, saying Comfrey FPJ and the date. So if that's the only thing you ever do in your life, you probably don't need to put a date. Well, you probably don't need to label it even. You're gonna remember. But once you get into natural farming and you're making a whole lot of solutions, it's nice to know what's what. And the date is important because of the shelf life, right? So you know what's going on when. So we do this. This is breathable. This is a piece of paper towel. And I put this on here with a rubber band. And then I'm going to put it in a place out of direct sunlight, out of any kind of bugs that would get it. And I'm going to leave it for, I do 3 to 5 days. I do it by my smell. So how do you know when it's ready?
It starts to smell like vinegar.
And alcohol?
It's just starting to smell like that, right?
Yes.
Right, Drake? That's when you pour it off.
Is it gonna bubble and do stuff like?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Might bubble a little bit. Might.
Like sour.
It's not going to come over the top or anything like that. So what happens, let's just review what you learned earlier because you've seen it once and it's always good to review. So let's say we're on day 5. We went, oh yeah, I smell a little bit of that. You're checking it every morning. Start at day 3, check, oh not really. Day 4, well, day 5, okay, it's ready. Or maybe it takes till day 7. Check it. You start to smell that a little bit, now what do you do?
Pour it off.
Pour it off with like a paint strainer or something like that, right? We don't want the plant material in there. Okay? So now we have our juice, comfrey juice that's come off, and now what? What did Drake teach you this
Sugar it
morning?
up.
You can saturate it, right? Super saturate it. Just now it's getting saturated with the sugar, right? Now we're going to super saturate. However, if we're going to use it right away, we don't have to. But we are going, or we could put it in the refrigerator, we wouldn't have to. Why do we super saturate? Why do we add more sugar?
If we want to keep it for a while.
Arrest the fermentation, right? Put them to sleep. Once we add it into water, when we're making our solutions, they wake up. Okay, but right now we want them to go to sleep because otherwise it's going to be a mess. They're just going to, yeah.
If you're going to use your solution right as soon as it comes ready within the week, what kind of dilution would you use with water, and what kind of sprayer do you use?
Oh.
I never do it that way. I always oversaturate it. So I can't answer that. Drake would answer the dilution if there's a difference.
There's no difference in the dilution.
Okay.
Okay. And the sprayer I use is, I have a backpack sprayer, a solo backpack sprayer.
So will you use the comfrey straight, or will you mix it? following the
Okay, so
recipes?
I want to finish with this first. Okay, so we poured it off. We've got the liquid now that's coming off of here. How much sugar do we add?
As it sits on top.
Right? So you start with a little bit, you stir it, you see where it's how fast it's sinking. Right? Stir it, put a little more, stir it. This is going to take much more sugar than the bananas did. Because it's not sweet. At all. Okay? So you know. You just keep going with that. Then once you feel that it's taking a long time to sink, you're done. You can now store it and use it. And it's used, what is FPJ for? What do you use it for in your food, in your plants or your body?
Food.
It's food, right? Yeah, so it feeds your microbes.
And then we label it.
Huh?
Label it.
Yeah, then when in your, yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's about it. And it, yeah?
Could you freeze it and use it later?
I would not freeze it, but I don't know what Drake would say about that. Would you freeze it?
It's stable at room temperature.
So it doesn't, so even if I froze it, it wouldn't matter if I get it out on a temperature, normal temperature versus frozen for using it at a later use. Like if I made a big batch of this and I wanted to use it later, just as
Okay.
an example.
So this, once it's been super saturated, not in this condition, but let's say it's all poured off and it's just the liquid that Drake was showing you earlier, that's something like this.
Right.
It's good for 2 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, and it's fun to make. So I'm making it all the time. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Did somebody say how much you diluted?
How much you dilute?
Yeah.
This is done 1 to 500 in the app. The app will tell you all of that. Yeah, so once you have that app, I swear to God, I use that thing all the time. It's so easy. You plunk in how many gallons you have, and there it is. You know exactly how much of every solution that you're going to use for a particular purpose to put in. Really easy.
What's the name of the app?
KNF Solutions.
KNF Solutions.
KNF Solutions. Yeah, and you'll have it right on your phone. It's easy. Yeah. Okay. Done.
So there, yeah, then did you?
Dr. Wikipedia says it's 35 kinds of compost.
So just so you guys know, oftentimes when I get questions about how do you use it, I like sometimes don't answer. I say get the app. It's because these things are used together. If I just start to eat food and I don't do any cleaning and I don't do any medicine, what happens?
It just gets back.
Like I just eat and I don't clean.
You get sick.
Yeah, so all these things are used together. So even though it's like, what's the correct portion of food to eat? That's a great question here. And typically this is diluted 1 to 500. That's typically how these foods are used. But they're used with other things. So that's why I don't often answer that question with just in isolation. How do you use this? So now you guys saw it twice, 2 different ways, plant material. And did you see how much juice came out of this plant material?
Yeah.
No water was added to this, right? This all was inside there. This is all the vital plant blood. This is what makes this different than any other recipe that you're gonna do. This is the stuff. So with this last little bit here today, I just wanted to finish up. We did the food really well, but I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the cleanser. So it's also on your handout on the back side, this guy with the janitor broom there. So read the top right of that, and there's like 5 or 6 points. There's more than that. Yeah, here's one. It's kind of got some stuff on it, but
I texted Michelle and Steve a while ago. Is there anybody else who needs any?
oh, there's one more right here.
Got the micro.
Yeah. Whatever.
Plant this.
Yeah. So these facts in the upper right hand corner you just read, hopefully you read some of them. Did anyone know about those things before?
No.
Did anyone think of it as purifying the liver of your plant? I don't know if plants have a liver or whatever, but moving cells into an alkaline state. That's something we want to do, right? Usually healthier systems tend to be alkaline.
Yeah.
Helps plants form a wax layer. This is something I never thought about. Putting vinegar on my plants actually helps create a thicker wax layer, which then helps, like if you're growing leafy greens, it helps prevent any of that bacterial wilt. You know how it gets like that little brown stuff in there, you know? And any type of little pest, if you get a nice waxy layer on your lettuce and leafy greens and those things, and that comes from using vinegar. So that's why when we're also using a food, we use the vinegar and we get these other side benefits. Not only are we cleansing it and getting rid of the crap, helping it get alkaline, we're also helping the wax layer get thicker. It even says on here, improves flexibility. You ever thought of your plants being flexible and like bending down and like, so a big windstorm's coming, hurricanes on the horizon. If I really care about my plants, I could go out and bring a lot of vinegar, spray it, and now my plants would withstand all that being jostled around better. So these are tools that you have that are even, you may have never even thought about before. But But that's what vinegar can do for your plants. There's even more of these fun facts down below. And in fact, this page ended up being mostly just fun facts, to be honest. Not much recipe, because you just add turquoise water to your previous recipe, which is a food. So to make vinegar is super easy, and you get all these things. What I want to encourage you is to make a homemade vinegar, because a living vinegar, those enzymes and things that are in there are so powerful for your body that when you buy a vinegar, they're all pasteurized and or processed in other ways. That humans, we used to eat a lot of real unpasteurized vinegar, and we don't anymore. So we're less flexible. We're more acidic. We have less wax on our skin. Right? I mean, no one even noticed that part. They're like, hey, looking waxy today. Must be up on the vinegar. All these other facts we didn't think of, but vinegar, living good vinegar has been removed from our diet. So if you take some and you start to make your own vinegar, it's really easy to do. And you start taking a little bit of it, you'll see all these health benefits in yourself.
We need to make the plant juice that can take 3 to 6 days or a week with the rain, I don't know, collecting things at first daylight or even any time during the day is gonna be hard to get plant material this week, maybe. But then from after that is when you make your vinegar, right?
Yep. And it's a process. You go to the
So
next
it'll be the next week after that we can make vinegar.
Yeah, and it takes 3 to 6 months to make it on your own. So you're in for it. But it's good. But I'm saying now you have something to look forward to. You're on your route to vinegar.
Cleaning, using vinegar to clean like wood and stuff, is that good? I read an article saying it's supposed to be good, it takes mold and mildew and stuff off.
Yes, and that's the same it does for your plants. It removes mold and mildew. If you're gonna use it to clean countertops, actually using vinegar it's almost better than bleach. It can be.
Also, vinegar, I found that, I don't know about anybody else, it keeps the ants off, toners and stuff,
Yeah,
vinegar
yeah.
and water.
Vinegar and water just
You
keeps.
don't like that vinegar that I noticed so far?
Cool.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. So another
Do
good
you make
thing.
fermented plant juice from green papayas when the enzymes are the biggest, the most, right? Is that okay to put on plants, or do the enzymes die and you ferment?
It's okay.
Okay, is it more, like will it protect plants more if you do it out of the green papaya, or all green fruits have a lot of enzymes anyway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the vinegar made from a ripe papaya compared to a green papaya?
Some of the better vinegars you can make are from really sugary fruits. That's why they make apple cider vinegar. Here in Hawaii, banana vinegar is one of the best and easiest things for us to make. Also, coconut vinegar is used in a lot of places, not so much here in Hawaii, but it's not in Hawaii, but those are other good choices. And you know, so every culture has its own vinegar that they create. But the best vinegars, I can make a vinegar from this Comfrey, and it's okay, but I'm gonna probably get a better vinegar from the banana. And you know, it all depends on your starting material.
Banana flower vinegar is not as good as the banana fruit vinegar?
It all depends. I'm not gonna get into like superlatives with which vinegars are superlative to others.
You said earlier the green was better, and the banana is
For
better.
plant juice,
Oh, for the plant juice.
yeah, for using it. That,
Yeah,
but,
video on that?
yeah, somewhere. I have lots of videos. But any questions, ideas about this vinegar? Did you guys read the bottom part too? I don't know. I don't know if you guys were like pondering on to that, but there's also other things.
How to dilute your vinegar to spray on your pepper plants which have powdery mildew. What kind of a dilution factor, is that in this app?
Yes, it is. But let's also think about that a little further, and let's say, okay, we got what do you got on your peppers?
Powdery mildew on the leaves of the pepper plants.
Powdery mildew on my peppers. Okay, so we need a So in natural farming, what we need to do, powdery mildew is attacking my leaves.
Medicine.
So I want to increase my medicine, just a little bit. I want to increase my cleanser. I also want to cut back on my food. Because the food is sugary, it has all those nutrients, it's going to feed my powdery mildew. I can cut back on it a little bit, starve it out, increase my food, increase my medicine, spray that. Now I've got that to happen. Then later I can come back and balance out my food and lower my cleanser and medicine back to regular levels, right? So what I mean by this is usually you're using it 1 to 500 vinegar. That's a cleanser, that's a regular dose for plants, that's your sweet spot. If I got a problem, I can go down to like 1 to 200, 1 to even 1 to 50 if I really had some crazy crap going on, but it's probably gonna burn your plant too. But 1 to 200 is like your emergency, I got powdery mildew.
200.
So it means that I am increasing my potency. The closer it is to 1 to 1 means it's equal.
It gets stronger, acidic.
So those are ratios. So that means if I have 1 gallon of water, or, well, I'll say this the other way around. If I have 200 gallons of water, I'm adding a gallon of vinegar to it. But usually I'm adding 500 gallons of water, I'm adding 1 gallon. So that's not that much. 1 gallon into 500. If I want to make it stronger, I put 1 gallon into 200 gallons.
Or for a few, 5 quarts and 1 quart.
Or scale it to hour. That's what the app's for. You don't have to worry, you just punch in the numbers and enter it.
But you wouldn't just use vinegar alone, right? You would mix it with the food and the medicine and make your everything tea.
Right.
One application for medicine, food, and
They can all be combined together in your same. But now you're starting to think of these ways, and when we call it these terms, you're starting to think, okay, like I can increase that or lower these, and that's what's going to ultimately empower you to be a farmer and to see you're going to encounter all kinds of things. But if your plant looks hungry, increase the food, keep everything else the same. Plant looks diseased, increase cleanser and medicine, increase food, all these different scenarios.
I'm sorry. And how often can you spray?
This stuff you could spray daily if you wanted to. You'll find you'll go broke doing that. Ideal is about once a week. Whatever you can fit into there. Actually, your plants prefer like usually every 11 days. Start feeding them more.
If it's raining every day, a lot.
Yeah, does it matter if it's raining? Doesn't that just wash everything out?
Truth is, spray when you can and do it as often as you can. If you think about it, you can do it. Your plants will be like, yay, we're being thought of and cared for, and we get the food and the medicine, the cleanser we need, and then we have our micro friends, and we're so happy.
Is it better to do it like in the early morning or late day when it's not, the sun's not so hot?
Ideally, is in the afternoon.
Or afternoon?
Best time again is when you can.
Okay, cool.
And then there's this point right here towards the bottom, the second to last point here. And this has to do with calcium absorption. One thing we're notoriously deficient in plants here is calcium wise. Just even taking it up into the plant takes, I just learned this the other day that it takes like a year or 2 for calcium to go from the roots up into the plant leaf. It's really slow how fast calcium travels in the plant. So the vinegar can help it absorb it faster and also absorb calcium through its leaves. So you can combine the calcium, which we'll get to, we didn't make that yet, but it's another class, and this vinegar together, the cleanser, and now it absorbs it better. Especially think of us and our bones, especially as we age. A little bit of vinegar and the calcium together, it will help us absorb it better.
Because we're gonna make calcium and we'll get into that. It takes a long time. So assuming you want calcium now, you can buy for a lot of money water-soluble calcium at the stores, at the plant stores. Expensive though.
This the way we do it takes 3 days. So
3 days?
You got 3 days here.
It's calcium phosphate that takes so long.
We also have that too. So anyway, the vinegar helps the absorption. So think about this, think of your diet, and think when you're combining things again, if you have a calcium deficiency, you should also be throwing some vinegar in there. And there's a lot more to just being calcium deficient. It's like, oh, well, are we also vinegar deficient? So when you're talking to your agronomist friend, you say, well, what's the vinegar condition? I don't know.
Can you drink too much vinegar?
Yes.
Well, then what, it takes out your, you know?
If I drink more vinegar than my body weight in like an hour, I'll definitely die. Yes, you can drink too much.
Water. What's too much? Like, what will it do to you?
No, you gotta pay attention to yourself. If you put too much on your plants, you'll kill them. If you put too much in your body, you'll probably kill it.
How much do you drink?
I don't know. I drink what tastes good to me, you know, and because people eat salt and vinegar chips, those things the human body can handle an amazing load of toxins.
Still here.
It's really hard to kill. I mean, it's easy to kill, but it's also at the same time really hard.
So when I took the classes before, we bought like a case of Korean vinegar to make the solutions. So now that we're making our own fruit vinegars, can we just omit buying those Korean cases of Korean vinegar and just use this vinegar?
Totally. So what you're asking about is this is Bexel vinegar. This is rice wine vinegar, brown rice vinegar actually. And this stuff made from brown rice, high quality. I refilled the bottle with banana vinegar. Both these equal good quality. We can send them around if you want. This is my homemade vinegar. So it's living. It has what they call vinegar eels in it, which are little nematodes that swim around that are super good for your body. But this is a vinegar that I made, and you can taste the banana flavor in it. It's living. It's a good vinegar. And then this one's one from the store, and this one's a good choice too. But this one's pasteurized though.
So it's not living.
It's not as exciting.
And don't they pretty much dilute them to 5 point something acidity standard? Is that diluted to the?
I'm sure it is. Mine that I made is just this process you saw here. My leftover material, water, left it, and it came out tasting like that dank vinegar right there. So we'll send around the living vinegar, and then the last little bit that we'll get into today is this, my friend of the tinctures. We'll just revisit this one last time before Powell. And this is, again, a tincture. I fermented it, tinctured it, and this is the extraction from that. This happens to be from 5 herbs. Forgot to bring my Comfrey tincture. I'm just gonna share that with you guys today.
How do those nematodes get into your vinegar?
They're there. They come out of the, so I have a biogenesis theory of like that Pasteur wasn't right, nor was Bechamp. Pasteur said germ theory of disease, meaning there has to be a germ to have life. Bechamp said environmental, meaning that if the body's sick, disease will show up. The other one said that you have to get a disease and then you get sick. Ultimately, it's somewhere between those. Drink vinegar.
There was a tincture of what plant? I'm sorry, tincture of. What tincture is
The
it?
shot glass?
Yeah.
This is garlic, ginger, cinnamon, licorice, and jalapeno.
So that's the OHN.
Yes.
Where'd you get your garlic from?
I think I got it from. I don't know. I think it came from California. Initially, I mean, I don't.
Well, elephant garlic grows in Hawaii? Is there any garlic?
It grows. It grows. It doesn't bulb is the problem. You can grow the chives all day. You can grow these nice chives, but then try to get a garlic bulb. I haven't been able to see anyone do it
My
here.
friend did, she got this red dye
smell it
that
from
they were
here.
selling at the Nash, and
What
she
is that?
said
It's
it
the
was
tincture.
involved, but I didn't see
Yeah,
that.
shove in the cinnamon.
So
That's what I got.
so yeah, this last little bit here, I just, you know, the same benefits that I had for the vinegar, you know, that thing where it's like talking about flexibility and all these things you didn't know it had. The same thing is true about all these herbs. And I just haven't compiled it into one page of what they're useful for. But largely, you can extract in an alcohol extraction many different medicinal properties and then use them. And I really recommend looking up Chinese herbology books if you're interested in this. And then if for Hawaii, to look up La'au, which is Hawaiian plant medicine, and to see what was used for digestion. I know, and I use a few things, but yeah. Research and share that around. Are there any questions today on what?
Source for angelica and licorice, economical, do you have to buy it from Korea or Japan or?
I like Amazon has them.
But for all of us to go on and buy little bits of things, is there?
So you guys have the Farmers Union. It's a great thing to unionize as farmers if you're looking to collaborate and to buy things in bulk together. I'd recommend stopping at it's Farmers Union meetings here once a month.
Oh, every 3 months.
Every 3 months? Okay, well, check in with Farmers Union and see if you can get some bulk things together.
I'm doing a bulk buy very soon on
There you go.
Frontier for, I have to send 400 for free shipping. And if anybody has anything, like, it's gotta be like $100 to $200 or something. If you wanna be in. If not, little stuff is.
Well, could we share? I mean, the
Yeah.
Sarahs could go share something.
I'll look and see if they have the things that we need.
Okay, and so the last thing that I have here today is, do you see the little ring on the bottom?
Sugar.
That's the SCOBY.
This little ring right here is the sugar that fell out of solution. Meaning that if I add more sugar into this and stir it, it's just gonna fall and this ring is just gonna get bigger now. This upper part can't absorb anymore. This fell out. When I see this perfect little ring here, I did it perfectly. If this thing was super thick, next time go a little easier on adding the sugar. And if I don't have this ring, it means that I may not have super saturated it. This may rot still.
So can you add sugar at that point when you know this?
Yeah, but the ring already came out. You see it?
Right.
Is that nice?
How old is that now, that one?
This is the one we just poured off
Just
right here.
Just did that. Oh my
We
God.
just mixed it in.
Added sugar.
This happened here today.
Today.
We saw it happen.
How often can you keep adding sugar a few times if you're like,
There's no point after I get this ring at the bottom. There's no point to add more sugar to this. Now all I have to do is drink this. If you look at my batch, there's a few floaters on the top. Some banana crap got up there. Skim that off. If I leave that banana crap, it'll rot and it'll rot my entire batch out. Pour it through a fine screen. If there's still crap in there and your thing is still bubbling, which banana fruit, there's almost always crap in there because this is too porous. Pour it through a t-shirt. It'll take a while, but after pour it through a t-shirt, after 10 minutes it'll filter through and then you'll get all the sediment out.
How long to?
Don't leave the sediment in there.
remove sweat stains?
How long to what?
You can wear the shirt again.
Oh.
Right away.
Well, use your friend's shirt.
Oh. Sweet friend.
While he's wearing it. Put him over the bucket. Come here, I need your shirt.
Is there ever a time when spraying directly on soil is better than not?
To put this food into my soil?
Yeah. Is it always leaf spraying for food and medicine? Obviously the cleanser, yeah, straight leaves, but
So this is used as a direct plant stimulant, but if I put it into the soil, it does wonders for my soil biology. If I spray it onto my plant, some of it's gonna drip down anyway. And so putting this directly as a drench into the soil, the deeper I can get these nutrients to go, the microbes will follow it down. And they'll then bring air and moisture, and then my soil gets richer. So the deeper I can water the nutrients down, microbes chase it, build soil. So your benefit is building soil.
And if you're spraying this on a banana tree that actually has bananas on it, is it okay, it's okay to spray the bananas directly, even if they're ripe? It won't cause like faster ripening or anything like that?
Maybe.
Okay. We'll experiment.
Yeah, just soak those things. Spray your kids, spray your neighbors.
How about making the plant juice from the banana leaves?
Yep.
Yeah. And you will use that for plants that you want more leaf growth?
So how about making plant juice from banana leaves? Totally could. They're just not that juicy and I wouldn't get that much. Instead of making it from a banana leaf, you know those tiny little bananas that come off the side, your little cakey bananas? Take one of those, chop it up with a knife, use that. The amount of juice that comes out of that and the amount of vigor that's in that baby one is so much compared to like in this old mature leaf that there's not that much moisture in there. The juice is in the small little spear. Cut that thing off, cut that out.
What about after you chop down a banana tree, chop that stuff up, 'cause that's really wet too, the old banana tree.
Yeah, but the thing, the old banana tree is what you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty old.
Yeah, it's just old. It's the vigor's in the new one, the new banana that's coming up. After it's fruited, you can take a nutrient spectrum analyzer and analyze your banana, and after it fruits, you're gonna get a different nutrient profile in the trunk than you would before it fruited. And your nutrients that were there were now in the banana, and then you ate those, and now they're not in here. So if you cut this up and ferment that, thinking you're gonna get all the nutrients
Too late.
move.
Yeah.
It's getting the most bang for your buck, right, out of what you're doing, all your effort and your work, you know.
Bang for the buck.
Yeah.
Bang for your buck.
You know that one vine, the holo holo vine or whatever, that one long one, it grows as a weed everywhere.
Yep.
Can you use that?
Totally. Anything, you can use anything.
Anything.
Anything. Certain things are gonna be better than others.
Alright, sweet. It's experiments.
Have you experimented and can speak publicly about with composting besides using lab? Like if you use that leftover fruit and put that in any part of your compost, would that help it degrade it any faster or anything?
These leftovers, you could compost them, that's fine. Feed them to animals.
Feed chicken.
Yeah, feed your animals that stuff too.
I mean, I know lab would be the best or something, but animal or whatever.
Yep. So any other questions on that? Or plant juice super saturated, you guys gonna do this as homework?
Yeah, you signed it.
I guess you're gonna have to collect at the first light, your plants, then go in and hold them in front of the fan and dry them off.
You gonna do that for us? Is that what you're saying?
No, is that what we're doing? We're coming to your house
So
and
rule 0 is my mom said it, but let nothing stop you from growing.
Do you ever make mango vinegar or mango plant juice?
I would, I don't have very many mangoes where I live.
I'm excited, we have to try.
I make guava.
Guava. I got that.
Yeah. Unripe fruit helps it during the transition. Ripe fruit helps when it's fruiting. Leaf material helps when it's growing. Any plant you choose.
Did you say we could use that, use pineapples also? Yeah, because that's real juicy.
If you walk along the road and you see this guava, if you prefer to have the growing tips, right, the little younger green ones, but if they're all looking pretty doggone mature, use them anyway, don't let anything stop you.
Have you yourself made pineapple? Because I know pineapples are, foliar feeders, so, I mean, that seems like a great idea, 'cause there's all that skin left over and they are.
I just had more acid.
It makes really good sense.
Yeah, I just haven't do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you can.
Do you know if this process preserves the hormones, not just the nutrients, but the plant hormones that are contained in the plant also?
Yeah. So he brought up an interesting point, and I'm pretty much, I kind of want to wrap things up for today, but maybe I'll go through this last bit. That oftentimes when we think of agriculture, it's been broken down for us NPK, and we've been broken into this chemistry lens where we look at it, we're like, I don't have enough molybdenum, or I don't have enough chemistry element. Plants don't think of it that way. They think of it more as these assembled enzymes and hormones and different compounds they work with. They don't think of it as, oh, there's not enough iron in me. They think, oh, I don't have this growth hormone. That growth hormone happens to contain iron, but they're not thinking of it as, I don't have iron. This here has all of those things that it's looking for in its assembled forms. There was no heat and no pressure applied to this. So I was able to extract out the juice without that. They're still assembled, they haven't been heated or blown apart. Then I feed it to the plant, and the plant says, oh, that's the exact hormone I was looking for. Thank you, I don't have to manufacture it, it's put into use. Versus I give my plant iron, and it says, now I got iron, now I gotta make that hormone, and then I gotta do this stuff. So what you're doing here is you're taking it already in the plant assembled form. It's more than NPK, it's more than like nutrients, it's more than chemistry. You're giving it living assembled biology. Not just sitting down to a pile of iron and trying to eat it, you're sitting down to like spaghetti.
And then fermentation is what opens up the nutrients.
Unlocks them from the plant, puts it in there, and then gets it ready to be bioassimilable.
Right.
So that's the last little bit for this. This medicine here, this can probably change your life. It definitely has for me. It's a vital thing that I fit it into my life in many ways, not just plants, but many things. And thanks for letting me share it with you.